Hey guys, Alicia here. This week's video, I am going to be talking about your immune system and aerobic activity. So we're talking your running and cycling and all of those monocyclic activities. If you want me to do a video on weight training and your immune system, then I can dig into the research on that as well. But I thought I'd focus on aerobic activity and your immune system this week. I have had a lot of clients ask questions about it, and so I thought this video would be a nice little answer to all of those questions. As a side note, when I was researching this, I found out possibly the reason behind why we're given bananas at the end of endurance events, something that I didn't know. So that's kind of fun, little side fact that you get to learn along the way today. But while you're here, hit that subscribe button if you want to see a new video every week on the theory behind exercise training for outdoor adventures of all kinds, and we are also dipping our toes into releasing some workout videos specific to different sports and some mobility and recovery videos for those sports as well. So hit that subscribe button if you're watching today. Okay, so the outline for today, we are going to start by talking about the history of research around our immune systems and aerobic activity, because it's pretty neat, but the research goes back even to the early 1900s. Then we're going to talk about the things that science has come to a consensus on when it comes to the immune system and what they're looking to research more. And we're going to finish up with 5 practical tips that you can take into your training and your life right now. Okay, so it turns out we have been trying to stay healthy while working out for quite a long time. The first research article that I found, or the first paper on this topic, was reviewing a study done on Boston Marathon runners in 1902. And I didn't even realize the Boston Marathon was that old, but yes, the earliest study I could find was in 1902, and the researcher looked at white blood cell count in runners of the Boston Marathon. However, it took a long time for more people to jump on that research train, and so 90% of what we're talking about today will be from studies from 1990 or sooner. So most of that research that we have is from pretty recently, actually. I was looking at this research. There was some general themes that came out. When we started researching your immune system and aerobic health, there was a lot of interest in what happens immediately after you exercise, so the acute response of your immune system to aerobic activity, and they measured that by measuring general indicators of how hard your immune system was working. If you know about exercise science, you know that an inflammatory response, which is in fact a immune response, is part of recovering from activity. That was part of them developing some of the theories and systems that we use now to physically train our body. More recently, researchers are looking at how repeated bouts of aerobic activity are going to affect your immune system long term. And they're able to do that because we have ways of collecting data on bigger scales nowadays, and we're able to look at like a lot of different aspects of someone's life when we're doing a study with them. These studies are a lot harder to orchestrate, and they usually give you correlation data, not causation data. So we're looking at the likelihood of getting sick if you exercise more versus less. And there's some actually really interesting findings, but we'll get to those in a second. So this means that researchers are now looking at multiple facets of your life: the way you eat post-exercise, your stress, your sleep levels, and how that factors into the more general way that your immune system is functioning. So are you getting sick? Are you developing long-term or chronic issues that are related to your immune system? And the future research is looking at how all of this can affect you in old age. There is a term that I learned when researching this, and it's really hard to say. Immunosenescence. Immunosenescence. The term is immunosenescence. And basically, it's a term that describes the general degradation of your immune system as you get older. So we all know that the elderly are at a higher risk of both becoming sick and having that sickness cause negative outcomes. So this immunosenescence is looking at how that develops and when it develops. So now I am going to attempt to summarize a very large body of research and data and studies into some of the commonly known things that we agree upon about the immune system and aerobic exercise. So the first looks at when you are doing a workout that is really hard, really intense, and is pushing you to like your physiological limits. A workout like that is actually going to have a temporary suppression on a lot of your immune system functions. As your body is trying to help rebuild you from that really hard effort, you are going to be temporarily more likely to develop acute or chronic diseases, or things like have a virus turn into a sickness in your body. But the important part of this is that this is if you are working out very hard and pushing yourself almost to your limits. The research was mainly collected on elite level athletes who were in aggressive competition and who like fully depleted themselves. If you're not raising your heart rate to at least 90% of your heart rate max and keeping it there for a prolonged period of time, then this type of immunosuppression is not something you have to worry about when you're doing biking or running or hiking, that kind of thing. The neat thing that they found out later that solves the banana mystery that I've always wondered about, like why are there bananas at the finish lines of every single endurance event? If we take in carbohydrate along with micronutrients immediately post-exercise, we can actually sort of eliminate some of the immunosuppression that happens at races or events where we're pushing ourselves really hard. So those bananas are there for a reason. And even if you are pushing yourself really hard, a virus still needs to be present for us to have that immunosuppression lead to some sort of sickness. So if you are practicing really good hygiene, which I'll get to in a minute, then it shouldn't have as big of an effect on you. But here's the cool thing, is low to moderate exertions, and some hard exertions, as long as they're not above 90% of your heart rate max for extended periods of time, over time, they are going to strengthen and build that immune system so that you are more resilient and less likely to get sick. The general consensus is 5 days a week getting out for some sort of aerobic exercise. For some people, a walk, a hilly walk, might be enough for them. For other people, they might have to, jog, run, bike, cycle in order to get those benefits. It depends where you are right now in your fitness. And here's the other cool thing, that immunosenescence, that breakdown or degradation of your immune system that happens naturally with aging, can be pushed back and delayed a fair bit if you have a higher level of fitness in general and if you are doing that 5 days a week of activity. The other thing that totally affects this research, but is kind of from a related but different field, is that time spent in nature or green spaces can boost our immune system as well. There's a number of reasons, and I can jump into that in another video if you want as well. But if you're doing that aerobic activity in a green space, and that could just be outside where there's lawns around, or it could be out into the hills, into the mountains. If you're doing your exercise in those green spaces, you are also going to benefit from an immune system boost from that environment as well. So what are the practical takeaways from this little overview that I've done today? First one is aerobic exercise is amazing for you in the long run, but make sure you increase it incrementally so you're not overwhelming your system too much. A lot of coaches follow the 10% rule. There's other ways to do it as well, but just make sure that you're gradually and incrementally increasing that aerobic exercise. The second thing, because a lot of us love doing those really hard workouts that push us mentally and physically to almost our limits, you want to make sure that you are getting your body ready for that before you throw yourself into that situation, and you want to space those out so that you're not hitting your body hard before it has a chance to recover. The third thing is to make sure that you are eating whole, carbohydrate-rich foods post aerobic exercise, particularly if it's at the higher end of how you feel for hardness. And great things are going to be the typical rice banana, apparently, berries, other fruits that can give you that carbohydrate source, as well as micronutrients. The fourth one is take that aerobic exercise outside if you can. There's challenges no matter where you live to doing that. In Pincher Creek, we often have our runs turn into wind sprints when we go outside. In other places, it can be gray and rainy a lot of the time. But if you get prepared for those situations, like I plan my run so that I'm coming home with the wind at my back, you can still get outside and enjoy and benefit from exercise plus green space. And the final thing is the best thing you can do for 80-year-old you is get out today and start by incrementally boosting that aerobic fitness over time. The last thing I will mention before I go is exercise is only one component of immunity. Good hygiene, especially when it comes to washing those hands for 20 seconds with soapy water, is going to be super important. Eating well, making sure you get your sleep, lowering unnecessary stress in your life. Those things are all super important for staying healthy in the long run, and exercise is just one part of many. If you've got any other questions about immunity, if you want me to do that weight training and immune system video, or if you have a different question that you want answered, love it if you pop that in the comments or send it to me in a message. And if you've got other tips for staying healthy, especially during these unusual times, I would love it if you gave them to us in the comments. But either way, thank you for tuning in to this video, and I hope you get out there and get wilder today.